Welcome to Householders, a conversation about American life as Zen practice. I'm Inga Annie Wade.
And I'm Kyosaku John Mitchell, and we're lay members of the Atlanta Soto Zen Center.
So, Randy Cosetts, who we met, a while ago on Householders, actually gifted me a book as part of the communications committee, and it's called A Year of Zen, and it's by Bonnie Myotai Treese, I think, is how you spell it or pronounce it. And I'm not like promoting this as as like, like we're not like sponsored or anything like that. So I just think it's a nice book, and I wanted to share some of the things with it. It's a journaling, a Zen journal book, and it gives you a new prompt for every day of the year, I think, or
Wow.
at least 52, yeah. And they're just short prompts that you can write about, and I find that it's a very positive journaling experience. I've had some negative journaling experiences in the past where I would just want to put like all my negative thoughts down, which I think does work for some people, but it just made me more angry to have them like solid in a place somewhere. So these are just more like reflections on Zen and your life and stuff like that. So I thought it would be fun to just pick a couple of prompts, and like we can just kind of see what comes to mind. It's kind of like that. It's very free form, and I haven't picked any specifically out, so this will be kind of random. As long as it's not like a drawing exercise, we can give it a try.
Sure.
And I don't know, just pick the best ones and for this podcast, I guess.
Okay.
It is kind of organized by season.
Oh,
Like
cool.
it'll tell you sometimes, like if it's like spring, they'll be like, oh, the pollen is really bad, but think about how we can hold space for even things like pollen or something.
I love that. Well, let's try and do one from like the middle of the beginning of autumn then.
Okay, let me see where that is. Okay, how about this one? This one says it's autumn. So,
Okay.
well, this is writing a poem. Do you think you could write a freelance poem?
I don't know. Never done it on the spot before.
Well, let's just try.
Okay.
It says write a short poem of 3 or 4 lines expressing your readiness to release your dead leaves and trust in the new life this will free you to create.
I find, I'll be honest, I find it like overly conceptual.
Well, I mean, we could talk about what we think that means anyways, like releasing our dead leaves and trust in the new life this will free you to create.
I mean, it's pretty natural for me to relate to autumn, or really like whatever season it is, as like the kind of thing my own energy is also doing, and it even comes down to like changing like what you have to wear outside and stuff. Like, I've gotten my old favorite jackets out of the dresser, for the first time in the last few days. And I feel like there's a going inward that happens when I do that. And sort of the bundling up is kind of the human body version of sort of the dropping of the leaves. Like if the leaves are like the bright, visible, outward image of myself, then like sort of wrapping it all up in warmer fabric is kind of keeping more of that energy for myself, storing it for winter. Maybe that's more of like an animal way of relating to it than a plant way, but if it's all, one cycle to me. So that's sort of what the energy change of autumn feels like for me, is like to taking back in some of the stuff that I share and put out in the warmer months, and sort of harvesting maybe like the stuff I've done this year, and trying to make it like trying to reflect on it and figure out what to plant for next year.
Yeah, so I mean that's interesting. So it's kind of like a area of renewal, because you're talking about like the harvest, and she's sort of talking about like the leaves falling. And so we think of it as a time of death, but maybe it's a time of renewal, actually. Like we're getting ready to renew it. We're starting over.
Mm-hmm.
Starting from a clean slate.
That's sort of like how I would understand the whole teaching of rebirth, right? Like it is a pause, not an ending. Death is, or like the reduction of life, really. Like death as a concept almost has too like final of a connotation for what actually happens, which is, the trees quote unquote die, like the trees don't die, but like the leaves die and they fall and they crumble and they turn into soil, and like a new cycle starts.
It's interesting that, the leaves fall, and I'm wondering if what kind of things do we have to like let go of regularly to sort of use them as nourishment for our own tree, rather than it's not like the leaves go in the soil and it's like poison. We're like letting go of bad things, and then there's bad things in the soil and the tree grows with like poison in it or something like that. It's like getting rid of the bad things, but then they in turn like kind of help you grow.
Mm-hmm. Do you have examples from what it feels like to be you right now?
I mean, it just recently having to let go of being comfortable for now, right now. Because I just got Invisalign, and it's,
oh, wow.
I don't know, I didn't think it was going to be this uncomfortable, but it really is. And I'm like day 3, and I'm struggling a little bit. I'm like, and the fact that you can take them off is almost worse, because if you have braces, you're like, well, I'm going to accept that they're there. But the fact that I could take off my Invisalign, I'm like, it's making it harder for me to accept that it's there and that I'm not supposed to take it off. I mean, except to eat and stuff. Another thing I've had to let go of recently is just that I haven't been sleeping well, and my roommate is really loud. And she wakes me up every single night. And it's kind of driving me crazy, but I'm like, okay, well, what do I really have control over? I've asked her to be more quiet, but that's not working. So, I'm like, I'm having to readjust everything just to make sure I can get a proper sleep. We're going to put carpet on the stairs, so when she walks up the stairs, it's not as loud. Nice. I'm going to, I am not watching TV at night until I get these really orange glasses to block out all the blue light. I'm going to be like doing a lot of relaxation techniques at night so I can fall asleep. So that's where I'm at right now.
And is like letting go of that comfort kind of like just what happens outside when the weather starts to change and it starts to get colder and rainier?
I think so. Yeah, because I hate being cold. Some people love it. And the fall is kind of nice, and you're like, but it's coming. Yeah. It's almost like, all right, get prepared. You're about to be very uncomfortable for a few months. And it's like, even if I'm inside, I'm uncomfortable. It's like still cold, like with the heat on. And then when you go outside and bundling up, like I think bundling up, that could be kind of comfortable and nice, like with layers. But then you go inside and you still have a bunch of clothes, but it's hot, and then you have to carry around a bunch of clothes, and it's cumbersome. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it does kind of prepare you for some letting go of comfort for a little while.
Well, that seems like a good thing to do, right? Like there's a lesson in it in a way. It's built in to the year, to the cycle of our life.
What about you? Is there anything that you're having to let go of?
Um, I feel like I'm always trying to simplify. That's sort of my big time project in life. Uh, Sometimes it's simplifying things that I've complicated myself, and sometimes it's just taking the things that the outside world has made complicated and trying to integrate them into my life, which I can't do at like maximum complexity, so I need to simplify them. But sometimes I have to let go of that too. I mean, that almost feels like what's happening. Like I've been pretty on top of the details of my life for a while, and I can't keep up anymore. Things have just reached like a
Mm.
certain point of like being unable to keep track, and now I'm getting used to uh, feeling okay with sort of dealing with whatever thing is most obvious and present, and trusting myself that I'm not going to allow anything critical to slip, and otherwise, just sort of trusting that if it's an emergency, it'll be clear and I'll deal with it. So letting go of uh, control and need to simplify is sort of how I feel at this very moment.
I mean, it's really hard letting
Yeah.
go of control. Like it, I mean, once you let go, I think it's easier, but the actual letting go is hard because I think it can make you really angry to have to not be able to control things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that does make me angry on some level. It used to make me a lot more angry. Like I used to feel like I was all
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had going. Um, Now it's a simpler thing. It's just like, why can't I just have like an hour to not do anything? Like one hour to decide. Actually, it's not even about not doing anything. It's just about like 1 hour of being able to follow my own inspiration for what to do.
Mm.
And it's just I'm getting like hemmed in on all sides. Uh,
Well, let's talk about that for a second because I find that really interesting, like following your own inspiration.
mm-hmm,
I mean, it's weird that I know what you're talking about, and I do find it like super comforting when it happens. But I've been so out of practice of doing that that when I do get a chance to just follow my own inspiration, the inspiration doesn't come anymore. It's like
mm.
I need like some sort of inspiration boost or something. But I mean, from your facial expression, it kind of sounds like looks like you don't experience that you're just like kind of chomping at the bit to get some inspiration time or something.
Well, maybe I think I've started to understand that my inspiration speaks at a lower level in a simpler way than I used to think. I may have felt similarly to how you feel many times in the past. When I think about times when I was more into various artistic projects or like writing songs or like I felt like I had specific artistic output to make that requires inspiration and sort of can't be done without inspiration, which maybe is a feeling that you have more strongly than I. Even like at times when I've had to write like creatively, uh, even for work all the time, I felt like inspiration was this sort of pressure that I have on
Mm-hmm.
me. And maybe you feel like that more just by virtue of the way that your creativity and your work are entangled, or
Yeah.
maybe even in your own just sort of artistic pursuits. I used to require that kind of output of myself, but that's not what I'm talking about now. Like what I mean when I say I want to have an hour to sort of to like let my own inspiration dictate what happens is really just about like, if I have the inclination to go for a walk, I want to just go for a walk right then. And if like my inspiration tells me to turn left instead of right, that's what I want to do. You know, like I
You
don't.
know, interesting enough, that is what I was talking about,
Oh.
though. And to a greater extent, yes, the artistic stuff is intertwined with that a little bit.
Hmm.
But it's just that, like, I'm at this point where I'm like, nothing that I would pick to do sounds productive enough anymore.
Hmm. So this is kind of
But
about a retroactive, like something like you may have an implement, like an instinct to do something, and then you decide, no, I can't do that. Is that what you're saying?
no, it's not an instinct anymore because it doesn't seem productive.
Uh huh.
So it's like the stuff that I used to do instinctually, like go on walks or just write or read or do some artwork. I have to plan for them for it to
Mm-hmm.
feel okay to do.
Oh, so it's not like like because you've made the time for it. It's like safe. Like
Yeah,
you're not messing with something else by doing it.
right. And even if I know, like I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm done. Let's go do whatever I want. Then there's like this pressure of like, what do I want?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Um, for me, the experience of inspiration has become very literal. It's become like a breathing in, breathing out thing. Like that's what the word means, you know? It's like it's not, which I think means it comes from outside. I think that might be kind of what the meaning of it is, like inspiration, like it's got the word in it because it's coming in, you know, rather than being an expression, which would be the opposite, right? It like it to inspire, like spire is the same root as in respire, like it's about breathing, and so to inspire is to like breathe something in, and the I think that's why people use the word when they say like I went for a walk in the woods to get inspiration or something like that. But I also like I'm paying such close attention to my breathing and to the way that it like lands in my body these days, that I am like I'm able to kind of get new information from every breath about what's supposed to happen, and it kind of comes in as a felt sense in my body. And I think another thing is that I trust it more than I trust my own ideas. Like I'm so used to having an idea, like a what should I do right now kind of idea,
Mm-hmm.
and going and doing the thing I should do and have it feel bad all over.
Yeah, yeah, I relate to that.
That like I don't really believe myself when I answer that question in like thought words anymore. Whereas when I like feel a tingle in my hands that sort of serves as a clue to what I should do right now, and I follow it, it always works. It always feels like a release or a relief to listen to that. And it doesn't, I mean, another thing is that the kinds of things that I'm talking about being inspired to do are so minor and so small. Like it's not like to go paint a picture or uh, like mow the lawn or something with like a tangible output. It's like I'm just going to sit here waiting for anything. And if I get like an impulse to put my left hand up in the air, I'm going to do that and like see what happens then. And then I'm going to put it down.
Does this kind of practice like feel very therapeutic?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I'm rewiring my sense of where my guidance comes from. And so, okay, so now this is kind of answering the like what leaves are falling from my tree question. Like there's a lot of signals that I'm used to listening to from my quote unquote self, you know, like from the confluence of forces that feels normal on a day-to-day basis, feels like the thing that would make sense to identify as myself, that are wrong, or, and I don't mean wrong morally, I mean wrong factually. They're incorrect about what the right thing to do is. Or they are conditioned by programs that are not authentic expressions of what I should do or who I should be or whatever. And I've listened to those because their voices are so loud, but now I'm like quieting down to the point where I can hear something more basic than that. And, you know, I wouldn't hear the impulse to like suddenly put my left hand up in the air for no apparent reason over the voice of like, you have to go be productive and make money for your family, you know, like that, or I mean, that's not even a great example. Cause like, that's true, you know, but like you need to be a respectable person in society. You need to, like make your parents proud of who you are right now. You know, like there's so many kinds of programs that I have considered more important than a tingle in my left hand. And it's not that they're not important. It's just that like following one makes me feel weird, and following one makes me feel like it's the right thing.
I know what you mean. I do feel like there's a certain relaxation, this effortlessness that comes with what you're talking about. Just feels like breathing in and out. Like you said, it feels like some sort of meditative practice to not like really think super hard about like what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember a time where doing that was so much easier. Like when I was a kid, I would just spend hours a day doing whatever I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's beautiful. A beautiful thing to do is let go of some of that programming for at least a little bit. Like you said, some of it is important, but this is important too.
Mm-hmm. And it's not even just that like the things it's telling you to do in any particular moment are important to do.
Right.
It's that learning to be guided by it is important to do, and it's guiding you all the time. So it's like I'm trying to think back to some of the most pivotal moments of my life, like emergencies, like really high stakes situations, to see what the guidance was, where it was coming from, you know? And it's hard to remember very, very, very vividly, but it's more vivid than a lot of other memories, which is, I think, an indication of the level of being in touch with these kinds of embodied sensations. You know what I mean? Because like I couldn't possibly tell you what was going on in my system when I was like taking my math final in junior year of high school, you know, which is like just an example of like something that was very traumatic that comes to mind very easily as like a big deal, but one that was totally guided by the kind of mental programming that I'm trying not to like allow to influence me moment to moment now. And
Mm-hmm.
like I remember the emotions of like guilt and shame and fear and stuff, but I don't remember like what my mood was or what my behavior was or what I said or did or how my body felt. Whereas in truly important situations, like, you know, having to take my little babies to the hospital uh, or, you know, even good ones, like they're being born right now, you know, like I do have like a really deep body memory of how I felt in a lot of those situations and how I was making certain decisions about like what to say or when to ask for help or, uh, you know, like if my wife was in distress and I needed to come up with something to say to be supportive, you know, I wasn't like
Mm-hmm.
racking my mind for cliches. I was listening to my like heart and nerves and trying to come up with the right thing for the moment to say. And that's a lot more like sort of feeling just suddenly inspired to like lift my left hand up in the air than it is um, doing the right thing according to some mental script. And so my hope is that by doing it in these completely mundane situations, I'm learning to tap into that same level of command of, you know, I mean that's a weird word to use, but like the same level of mindful, careful attention to the moment that I have in really serious situations all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I can use them in like medium important situations, you know, like
Yeah, no,
having
for sure.
difficult conversations or whatever.
Oh, I get that. But as of now, with your schedule, I guess is this becoming like a more difficult to do as far as um you know, you said that you kind of had to let go of control and some
Mm-hmm.
of this unstructured time you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to do, but I think that it's actually very interesting for me to consider whether what's happening is I am uh, having less and less time to do this, or whether it's that I'm wanting more and more time to do it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know how good of a job I was doing at this before, and it's good that I'm feeling like I want to use as much time and energy as I possibly can, and that there's not enough. You know, it's a sign that I want to do this work. And, you know, I'm doing what I can to make time for it. Uh, but I do, but it also feels important to like let go of the uh, requirement that my life be a certain way so that I can do the stuff I feel is really important. Cause like I don't get to decide everything that's important.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, do you think this is similar to like what why people like are like, you know what, I just need some alone time?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe maybe that's in essence what they're kind of practicing, you know. Maybe it's not just to get things done, it's just to kind of recharge mentally, kind of you know, maybe to a certain extent we all experience this a little bit. Maybe introverts a little bit more than others. Maybe they need a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
to to function regularly. I don't know. Um, but I do see kind of this thing, although we don't really have a super specific name for it, seems to be almost universal that people want some unstructured time to themselves to kind of go with the flow.
Yeah. That's definitely why I want that time. And what I'm doing with that time, even if I don't feel like I'm using that time as effectively as I could because I'm exhausted and I just want to like lay on my back and stare at the ceiling or something, you know, or look out the window or rearrange the books on my bookshelf. You know, like all of those things that I just listed that I was trying to say are not good uses of time actually feel like really great uses of time. But like, you know, even if it's just like organizing my desk, it's like what I'm actually doing is organizing my desk according to my inspiration, you know. That's
Yeah.
that's I'm inspired to do it right now. So I should. And hopefully like the inspiration that goes into organizing my desk will come back out of having an organized desk as like inspiration to do the stuff I need to do while I'm sitting at my desk, you know?
No, I think that's perfect. I think that those kind of things build up over time if we don't set aside the time to deal with them. And it could be something, I mean, maybe that's what we're doing. We're just organizing things. We're organizing our thoughts, or organizing our space, or organizing our patterns, or something like that, where we have that time for sort of to do whatever we need to do. And I think we need to, speaking for myself here, allow ourselves to have that time and not judge what we do with it. Whether, like you said, if you're laying on your back and staring at the ceiling, if that's what you need to do, that's okay.
Householders is a production of the Atlanta Soto Zen Center in Atlanta, Georgia, and the Silent Thunder Order. Find us on the web at ASZC.org.
Our Sangha depends on your support. You can donate by PayPal to donate at storder.org. Gasho.